Hey guys, what's up? Chancellor on the brink of another bank bailout. That was the first message that was on the first Bitcoin block that was mined by Satoshi Nakamoto on January 3rd of 2013. Now, those people that do not know who Satoshi Nakamoto is the pseudonym of the person or people or company or companies that released the Bitcoin white paper back in 2008. That was the name on that paper. And that's the message that I just said was the message inscripted on the first Bitcoin block that was mined on January 3rd, 2013. Now, some people say that it was just a timestamp, and indeed it was, but other people say it was also a political statement that's calling out on the failing banking or financial systems. And that's where we are. Now, Bitcoin, I've been talking about Bitcoin, but it's not the only currency out there. There's others called altcoins. Altcoins like Ethereum, created by Vitalik Buterin, XRP, created by David Schwartz, EOS, it's under a company called Block.one, and the CEO of that company is Brendan Bloomer. So there's other currencies like Bitcoin Cash that forked off Bitcoin like maybe 3 years ago. It forked off Bitcoin. Now, a fork is where people in the cryptocurrency community disagree with what's happening on a certain blockchain, and they say, you know what, we don't agree with what's happening, so we want to deviate off that and create our own standard that runs things the way we think is fairer, better, more efficient, more scalable, and generally more efficient. Then you have also currencies like Ethereum actually Ethereum is not the original. There was Ethereum Classic. Then Ethereum forked off Ethereum Classic because they didn't agree with what Ethereum Classic was doing, or Ethereum Classic didn't agree with what Ethereum was doing. So these different altcoins have appeared in or manifested themselves in a various number of ways through forks. Then currencies like Litecoin was created by someone called Charlie Lee, and Litecoin was a copy paste basically of Bitcoin's software, but with a few tweaks here and there to try and improve upon it, to try and improve some of the problems that Bitcoin has, like scalability. For example, when there's a lot of people transacting on the Bitcoin blockchain, the transactions become slow, there's not enough throughput, and what happens after that is that the transaction fees become so high. There were people talking about $50 in transaction fees, and I mean, if you're going to send $20 but the transaction fees are $50, or if you send $60 then $10 gets to the other side, then that's a failing system. What's the point of having that system? But obviously those are some of the challenges that Bitcoin is facing. That's why it hasn't yet obtained full adaptability globally. Then also there's the fluctuations in price, people losing money because they're buying it at the wrong time, or they're buying at the right time but they fail to sell, things like that, guys. Always do your own research, watch out. So all coins have manifested themselves in different ways. Now let me give you an example of a boom in all coins. This is a very good example. Now Ethereum, Ethereum has different standards. It runs. Now, okay, let's track back for a bit. Now, Bitcoin, remember I talked about miners. Bitcoin, as miners mine Bitcoin, or as they prove transactions that are happening on the blockchain, they solve that using a proof of work algorithm. That's called proof of work. And the system securing those transactions and making sure that nothing wrong can happen within the blockchain is a hash-256 algorithm. It's a cryptographic algorithm that runs on Bitcoin. Now, Ethereum also uses proof of work currently, but they want to move on to something called proof of stake with their Ethereum 2.0. Now, with staking, you have a bunch of Ethereum, place them on the blockchain, and as people borrow and use the resources of your Ethereum, you get a reward every month, every couple of days. It depends on how the blockchain has been triggered or programmed to do that. Then you have other currencies. Now, the reason why I brought that up, Ethereum, there's a standard that was created, which is the ERC20 standard. Now, the ERC20 standard allowed people to create tokens just like that. and they were called ICOs, or people are calling them initial coin offerings. Like the way you see in business and finance, there's initial public offerings. So people are creating initial coin offerings, saying this coin, you buy this coin. So when you buy this coin, the value increases, and hence our company has more money, and we can build our applications and our ecosystem. So in the future, as an investor, you'll have a very valuable piece of virtual currency. And obviously, due to this speculation, just like the internet way back in the 90s, where people were speculating on companies that were just adding internet or www or .com to their URL, it's the same way companies were releasing ICOs that they didn't know about and adding the word blockchain to their company name, and this created obviously a bubble. It created a bubble. Everything blew up. Everything just blew over. The sentiment became extremely negative after that. People lost a lot of money. So it takes me back again. People, do your own research. Don't just get into things you don't understand, and always try to find news from the right sources. Do not avoid making mistakes. Do your own research before you get into this. Now, these different altcoins trying to solve very many problems. Like there's another altcoin called VeChain. VeChain is trying to solve validity in agricultural products. For example, you're moving a product, you're buying some expensive product from the Himalayas or truffles, and as a buyer, as a seller, as an end user, somehow you want to know that this expensive agricultural product is indeed legitimate. So if it's time stamped and tracked on a blockchain system, it cannot be interfered with, it cannot be changed. So you can track that this item that was placed here, this legitimate item, indeed has reached this point, and there is no shadiness happening in there. So different altcoins that have come up, some have been forked off Bitcoin's technology because it's open source, it's open, it's there for anyone to see and use whichever way they see fit. Then there's other coins like EOS that are actually using proof of stake. Now EOS lies on the blockchain of the EOS.io. EOS is under a company called Block.one, and the CEO of that company is Brendan Bloomer, just like I mentioned. Now, Bitcoin, we don't know the person behind it. We know the pseudonym, but we don't actually know who that person is or group of people. But with Ethereum, it's Vitalik Buterin. EOS, there's a company that's led by Brendan Bloomer. XRP, David Schwartz. David Schwartz is the creator of XRP, the CTO, the Chief Technical Officer. Now, EOS is set out to dominate in the field of decentralized applications. Just like Ethereum, there is decentralized autonomous applications. That's what it wants to achieve. Now, let me just unpack that for you. A decentralized autonomous organization, just like in its name, is decentralized, not owned by any entity. It's autonomous. It governs itself, doesn't need any central bodies to govern it. And it's an organization. Well, it encompasses all these things. Then you have proof of stake on EOS, which is trying to develop decentralized applications as well. So decentralized applications are applications, the same thing, run on their own, govern themselves. They have self-governing system, so there's no corruption in there. They're not vulnerable. They're not driven by human emotion and greed. They govern themselves, and they're driven by machines. Now, the whole point of this, the different altcoins that are set out to achieve different things. Some want to be as systems that have land titles on them, so you can place your land titles there, so they're yours, it's legitimate, no one can steal it. Other tokens are going to be such that you can buy, just imagine this, you can buy real estate in any country in the world by buying a portion of a token. So you can own a piece of the Manhattan or something, a piece of some building in a country that you've never been to, because you had the money to actually purchase a token that's directly attached to the real estate, as opposed to owning the actual physical real estate. So, there's so many possibilities that are going to happen with all coins that are trying to achieve different things. There's people in the cryptocurrency community called maximalists or Bitcoin maximalists that think that Bitcoin is going to be the only end-all be-all cryptocurrency, and there's no other cryptocurrency that's going to thrive. I disagree, because there are other altcoins that are trying to attain real-world use cases to try and help people in very meaningful and useful ways. So one thing I know for sure, I don't know what the future is going to turn out, but one thing I know for sure is that Bitcoin and altcoins are here to stay, because humans aren't just going to sit back and say, oh, no, this system's not going to work like that, so let's just let everything go. Let's just let everything that we've worked hard for go away. So that's not going to happen. Now, for that reason, unless something fundamentally happens to the Bitcoin blockchain, such that maybe someone carries out a 51% attack on the Bitcoin blockchain, for instance, and I'll explain the 51% attack Okay, let me just go through it. So the 51% attack is essentially when you have Bitcoin miners that have so much say on the blockchain to the point that their hash rate or their position in the mining community, should I say, is greater. Their mining power is greater than 50% of the Bitcoin mining power. So theoretically, they can perform an attack on Bitcoin, do things like double spend or change records within the Bitcoin's history. But this attack would be so expensive if there's no actual incentive to do it. Bitcoin will drop in value because obviously people lose trust in the system, and on top of losing value in the system, the whole thing crashes. So there's no direct incentive to actually perform such an attack, but it's theoretically possible for if there's so much mining power centralized within one company. And that's but you know what, we'll get into these details. I'll unpack them as we go along the way, and hopefully as you follow on, I'll be giving more clarity on this information. So ingest it slowly, try to understand it slowly, and with time it will be second nature to you. You'll have a very good basic understanding of what this is and how it will possibly emerge and evolve into. Just like the internet back in the 90s, people could never tell that we're going to have social media and sharing files. Even sending email was seen as something that's not possible, something that's wishful thinking. But the way the internet has evolved now, what cryptocurrency does is that if you think the internet has evolved, then the effect that this is going to have on top of the internet is going to be something that we can't even imagine. So take care, guys. Hope you understood. Have a good one.